Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I'm your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 124, recording on Thursday morning, October 30th. The guest for you today is Colton Pouncy. He was a classmate of mine at Mizzou. He covers the Detroit Lions. For The Athletic, always enjoy kicking it around with Colton. Talk to him about this game. Talked about the entire Lions roster. We got into how the Lions, evaluate players and why Brad Holmes has been so successful in his mind via the draft. So really fun conversation, as always, with Colton. Think you guys will enjoy it. You will find that later in this episode. If you're new here and you're watching on YouTube, would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button right below. There's also a little red thing in the corner that we got set up where it's like 2 clicks and it helps us out. And it's free for you. So I highly recommend that. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart or wherever you get podcasts, you can rate and review and all of that good stuff. We appreciate that. This show, which I record 2 times a week, I cover the Vikings for The Athletic, but I also do this 2 times a week because it's fun, get to talk directly to you guys. It's presented by First Resource Bank. That is a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. There are branches everywhere. It's run by Tim Siegley, Aaron Siegley, and Charlie Anderson. These guys are Vikings fans. They are great people. They care about the community. I support them really with because of how good they've been to me. So please go check out First Resource Bank. The show's also sponsored by Unreal, the clothing brand based here. I wear it every day to the facility. Adam Thielen's been making fun of me about it, but that's just kind of how it goes. They've got a new NFL signature collection that is very cool. I'll put the link to that in the description, but just high quality stuff. Looks good, at least probably on you, if not me. So highly recommend going to check out Unreal. Stories galore at The Athletic, working on something on a player that I'm pretty excited about. It's been the type of year where not as many features probably and more analysis / deciphering of what's going on the field, because that is what the job requires, and you got to evaluate and analyze and all that good stuff. Before we get into Colton, I just had a thought on where we're at in this season. You guys know the record. You guys know the situation. You guys have probably thoughts about the whole Carson Wentz thing and how that played out. But just looking ahead and considering Sunday, and going forward, the way I've summed this up to people, to friends, to family, to anyone who's asked me about this team is this is where you find out what presents are under the tree. This is JJ McCarthy's opportunity now to spend the last 10 weeks proving that I don't expect him and the expectation in my opinion should not be for him to come out Sunday and shred and rip it all over the field. And if he does that, that'll be phenomenal. But that should not be the bar or the standard that he's held to, at least early on. If he'd played the first 7 games, then it would make more sense to expect that right now. But this is really the opportunity for him. It's a critical time period for this organization's kind of direction, in my opinion. And I just feel like, there's no really going back right now. If there's another injury to JJ McCarthy, then Max Brosmer will get a look. And, whether he proves anything or not, you end up at the end of the season and going into the offseason where, the quarterback conversation is going to exist again, seemingly in perpetuity for this team. But this is for JJ McCarthy to stay healthy, to be accurate, to avoid sacks, to inspire confidence, and to just build and stack. Kevin O'Connell said on Wednesday, he just needs reps, needs game speed. And he's right. There's just only so much you can accomplish on a practice field with a VR headset. All of that stuff can definitely absolutely help. But there is something altogether different about being in that role on the field with 40-second play clock stints of having to read the field and hear the play and take hits and all of that. And, I mean, again, like we were all – I say we, like even me, you know, entering this season I was very excited, interested to see how J.J. McCarthy looked. And like for me, this opportunity, this time right now is, I mean, it is critical, and it sets up for, I mean, you don't want to go too hard on it, but it just feels like this next 10 games weighs heavily in how things are going to go with the future of the organization from a decision-making standpoint, from a roster-building standpoint, and all of that. I'll also say, you know, I was talking to someone in the league, and someone who was in a front office in the league, and we were just talking about the Vikings situation. And, I mean, there's just no question that, like, part of the strategy of not stripping the roster down and trying to kind of rebuild on the fly and reset the salary cap and all of that. I mean, for that to work, and I've said this many times on the podcast, you have to hit in the draft. You just have to hit in the draft. And if you guys have listened to the podcast or read my writing, I'm pretty open about the fact that I think the draft is a very inexact science, and it is a really difficult like playground to hit continuously over and over and over. Like Brad Holmes and what the Lions have done, and again, we're going to talk about this with Colton Pouncy, like whether that can continue for another 3 or 4 years. If that's the case, that would kind of go against all odds. It would be an ultimate outlier. Like there's just been very few general managers whose draft success continues year after year after year because of how difficult of a, you know, selection process it is. It's just very hard. That said, the results are the results. Like as hard as it is, as unpredictable as it is, if you're going to build a team optimally, that is the realm at which you have to do that. I'm in the Vikings facility. I could go upstairs 2 floors, and anybody up there would say that. Like they're aware enough to that point. And so I just, like in my conversation with this person in a front office in the league, the conversation was like, it's just really hard to sustain through free agency. That's just, it's the case because free agency is often like there's a reason guys land in free agency. Either they're older, they've navigated injuries, teams don't feel like, teams replace them with developed players. Like it's just not a sustainable team building model. And that's not me. It's not really a criticism. It's just the reality. Again, like anybody aware enough and open enough would be willing to admit that. But the more this season is played out, like the more it just proves how doing what the Vikings did last year with how successful they were in free agency, that's just not going to be a sustainable model. And so, again, the draft is hard. It's unpredictable. I really don't anybody who thinks they have the Midas touch with it, I just have a hard time believing that's the case. But that doesn't overshadow the fact that you have to generate results or else you're going to find yourself in a very tough spot and make it hard on really every aspect of your team. So those 2 things I wanted to start with. And then, we'll segue right into Colton Pouncy. He covers the Lions for The Athletic. He was a classmate of mine at Mizzou. Always enjoy getting to talk to him. I think you guys will enjoy this. And, here's Colton Pouncy, Lions writer for The Athletic. All right, Colton, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to be back. There's nowhere else I'd rather be.
Right. And that's what everyone says. I mean, it's a classic. Mina Kimes said the same thing. All right. Obviously, Vikings-Lions, always enjoy catching up with you. We could talk about Mizzou football, but let's just hop right into it. I want to start with Brad Holmes because obviously Aiden Hutchinson just received an extension with a fair amount of money in it. They've drafted just unbelievably well. And, it's been a conversation here, the lack of draft success. So part of me wonders, I just want to hear from you, like, what do you think has allowed Brad Holmes and that team to be so good in the draft since he arrived in 2021?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to sound simple, I get it, but they just look for good players that are hard workers. And I know it sounds basic and simple, but like that really is like the method to their madness. So when you look at the guys they bring in, they have a strict list of requirements that they need from each prospect. And it's not about like speed or height or size. Like that stuff, you can find any body type in the draft at any point, in any round. What they look for are guys that are also talented, good teammates, but they also work off the field to maximize everything they have. And they do a tremendous amount of homework on personality and background and work ethic. And they're talking to like strength coaches and they're talking to like GA. They're really digging deep to find out who these guys are, if they're assholes or not, if they're good people, and if they're going to maximize what they have and fight for their teammate on the field. And because you can find talent at any point, but they're not going out and getting the fourth round pick with some talent, but who was kicked off their team because they're young, doing whatever, So that's really the secret sauce. And they say it every year, and it sounds very simple, but that's how you end up with, Sam Laporta. That's how you end up with Jack Campbell and Jahmyr Gibbs and, all these dudes that they've acquired over the years. And when you start collecting it at that rate and stacking up draft after draft after draft, that just becomes your locker room. And then you get to a point where, your culture's strong, and I know that's an also overused term, but when your culture's so strong, even when, your coordinators leave or, like, you have injuries, like, that's just the mindset of, okay, well, we're just going to keep going because that's all we know. So that's really the secret sauce to all of it. It's not anything crazy that they're doing, but they're just putting an emphasis on, like, who these people are more than anything.
And I would imagine, like with Brad Holmes having done this as long as he has and his staff, like the relationships they have with a lot of these college programs, they probably get the real of who these people are at a level and at a rate that allows them to scout like really well. And I think that's like almost like behind the scenes to be able to identify those guys who are that, level of work or whatever. Like you have to have relationships for those people to be honest with you. And so I would imagine that's so much of a part of it. It's just all interesting to me, which is why I asked you about it.
Yeah, for sure. No, and those relationships are huge, and the Lions have good ones across the country. So that's definitely the bread and butter for it.
I'll segue a little bit. Obviously the most recent draft, probably the guy who's been thrust into the fire, quickest and has been most important, I would imagine, is Tate Ratledge, the right guard. That interior offensive line is obviously different, redone. Graham Glasgow center, Christian Mahogany, a guy I'd never heard of before I watched the film, at left guard, 6th-round pick, who has ascended to that role. But just what has been your take of that group? I think about it against the Vikings interior that just has not been spectacular. Jalen Redmond, Levi Drake Rodriguez, these guys have kind of come along, but and Jonathan Allen's been solid, but for the most part, they have struggled on the interior. How has the evaluation gone there of that new look interior offensive line?
Yeah, I think they knew it was going to be a work in progress when you have two first-year starting guards in there. And these guys are 24 years old, and Christian Mahogany, he was here last year. He played a couple of games, but nothing major, and then obviously Tate's a rookie. So that Packers game, it really showed some of their inexperience, and having your first game be on the road at Lambeau is not fun for a lot of people. But this offensive line, it was so loud in there, and they have communication issues. Like, there are a lot of snaps in that game where they told us after the fact, like, 3 guys are running one play and 2 guys are running the other because they didn't get the kills or the checks from Jared. So I think once you got past that game, and it definitely looked a little rough in week 1, you've seen them settle in, especially Tate, because these guys are really good run blockers. Like, they're maulers, and that's sort of what the Lions like at guard. And that Tate Ratledge, Penei Sewell right side has really been the key to a lot of their explosive runs off that right side. Those guys have been running a lot of duo. They just kind of create these holes for their backs in ways that kind of reminds me of when Kevin Zeitler was here a year ago with Penei, what they did on that right side. So they're definitely settling in. I would say they're more advanced in the run game than they are as pass protectors so far. Graham Glasgow is actually the opposite. I think he's a better pass protector at center than he is a run blocker. So you've had some mixed appearances, mixed games there in the interior. And then when Taylor Decker is out there at tackle, I think they're pretty solid. But he's been hurt with a shoulder injury, and it's kind of lingering. And he's been thinking about retirement a little bit. He's just pondering it, thinking out loud more. So I think they're coming along. They're still, I think, borderline top 10 unit, but some slip ups along the way for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting for me just going through the numbers, and you wrote two, I thought, were really good stories just throughout the bye week of analyzing the offense and the defense. I'd recommend people who are insane about this game to go check that out. But it was interesting to me because the run statistics are not phenomenal on the surface. They really aren't. And then it's interesting because I pair that with the film, and it's there's some 2-yard runs, a negative 3-yard run, and then Gibbs explodes for 78. It's well, if you have that in your bag, I don't know. So
it makes everything else look good. Yeah.
Right. So I just how have you evaluated the run game when it does feel the Gibbs explosiveness always gives you the home run hitting ability, and yet the down-to-down efficiency doesn't feel like what it's been or what it was kind of with Ben Johnson last year?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and what I wrote about in that story. This is weeks 1 through 7. The Lions were 5th in rushing per game at 133.7. So that's where we expect them to be. But when you look at the underlying metrics, they were 13th in yards per rush, 15th in EPA per rush, 18th in explosive rush rate. I think 49% of their rushes have been running backs have been hit at or behind the line of scrimmage. That was 21st in the NFL. So things like that, you're looking at these numbers and you're just that kind of matches the eye test outside of the big Gibbs runs that, obviously the Monday night game where he kind of went off there, that helped the numbers a little bit. But yeah, there have been fewer explosives, more running backs getting hit at the line of scrimmage. So you're just that's something that needs to be cleaned up. And I think, that's probably something that they really evaluated during the bye. What's going on where we can't get this consistent, running game going. So John Morton, he's kind of a grinder. He kind of looks for all that stuff. He'll lock himself in the office. He actually sleeps at the facility during the week and doesn't leave
healthy.
until
it's great.
like most offensive coordinators do. But yeah, I'm sure he did a long self scout and try to figure out what's going wrong. And usually I've looked at it myself. It's one guy here missing a block, a tight end here missing a block, and it's it's hard to get everything going on the right on a per play on the right note. But it's just one or two things here and there that if they clean up, I think they'll have more success in the run game.
Yeah, it's Sam Laporta doesn't seal the backside, and it could be a 6-yard run and ends up being 3. It was interesting to watch it because, they still looked so similar. They come out in 12 personnel, and you got Sam Laporta and Brock Wright, and you're here they go. And Gibbs is the guy is absolutely electric. If he gets to the third level, it is over. It is absolutely over. And the Vikings fans listening to this podcast watch Cam Bynum attempt tackles many times and miss. So that's kind of and you probably know this reading some of my stuff or just following it. The Vikings run defense has been a problem. Every team they faced has gone jumbo, and they've thrown their Dan Skipper out there, and they have just mowed the Vikings down. And if Detroit is able to do that on Sunday, it is not going to be pretty, and you're going to hear that Lions song that I sent you a video of so many times. That's just the reality.
Heroes, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I don't know whoever
touchdown
sing. Yeah, the guy singing is electric. Anyway,
yeah.
All right, I'll switch over to defense a little bit, unless there's anything offensive. I don't know, is there anything else offensively? It's still Amon-Ra, who's impossible to stop. You interviewed his father for our TV show, which was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jamison Williams, it doesn't feel like has gotten the amount of targets that's the expectation.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Just JMO, the target distribution hasn't been probably what they like, and they were hyping JMO up all offseason, then signed him to a big extension. And I think he's had 2 or fewer catches in 5 of 7 games. So there's definitely some boomer bust to his fit in the system. But I'm sure that's something they looked at the bye to try to give him the ball a little bit more.
Yeah. From a pass rush perspective, bunch of guys I'm curious about. First, I rewatched the Bucs game Aleem McNeil, I thought was, I mean, he looked good. Like in his first game back from that injury. I don't know if it's the pink shoes that he's wearing. It just makes him look more athletic. I don't really know. But the guy was dynamic. And then, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson does what he does. Al-Qadim Muhammad, I don't know where this guy came from, so I wonder about this. And then I'm also curious about the rookie first-rounder, Tyleek Williams. So, like, that group, I'm leaving out DJ Reader, other guys. But you can go wherever your mind goes with that group.
Yeah, fans are pretty pissed at the Lions, especially, like, Brad Holmes going into the season for, I guess, for what they say, ignoring the edge rusher position, because a lot of them wanted Zadarius Smith back, and like that was supposed to be like the final piece, the final touch on this defense, right? Getting him back in like August after training camp where he sat out. That didn't happen. The Lions, Dan Campbell went on like 97.1 ticket, the local station out here, and was asked about getting another edge rusher, and he goes, "We're good." And everyone's like, "Oh, okay, that's a little arrogant," but it wasn't. It was just him believing in his guys, as Dan Campbell does. And so what has happened since is the Lions have created pressure. They've generated sacks. I think they're third in sacks per game right now. Aiden Hutchinson is back to his old ways. He leads the league in pressures. He's third in win rate. So he's doing his thing, and then he got extended as we thought he would. He looks like himself again. Al-Qadim Muhammad has been phenomenal. And a lot of people thought it was going to be Marcus Davenport across from Hutch, or at least I guess the Lions did, because a lot of us were like, that guy's not going to stay healthy.
And the people listening to this podcast are like, that's not going to happen.
I mean, he's a great guy. I feel bad for him. It's kind of been the story of his career, but
yeah,
he played 2 or 3 games last year. And he goes down in week 2, ends up on IR, and has not played since. So, like, yeah, I mean, that's sort of the risk you run when you sign him. So I think we saw in training camp how great that duo looked, where you're just like, if Davenport stays healthy, and that's a big if every time you sign him. So that he's obviously out right now. But Muhammad stepping up the way he has really answered a lot of questions and alleviated a lot of concerns. He's a top 20 pass rusher across the board in terms of metrics, and has really just been there to clean stuff up when Hutch gets doubled and tripled or chipped. He's right there on the other side, and getting a guy like a lean back who can create interior pressure, which they're kind of lacking. Tyleek's more of a run defender than a pure pass rushing defensive tackle. Same thing with DJ Reader, although he's been better in that department this year. But having a guy that can crush the pocket from the interior and just allow other things to happen, or quarterbacks to funnel elsewhere, is really going to be a big boost for this group.
Yeah, I mean, and they will blitz those guys like crazy. Like the one thing watching the defense, I kind of feel like the way they play coverage sometimes is like the pass rush version of Flores, where it's like it's like an identity that they will just man you up with guys who probably should not be playing. And it honestly, it feels like we're just going to do what we do, and we have confidence in what we do. And you almost just like respect it. I'm like, why is this guy Whiteside or whatever his name is running all over the field with Emeka Egbuka? But it's working, and they're sending Anzalone. And so I don't like, the defense is so interesting to me because it's not like a bunch of mixing zone coverages and they're playing palms. No, it's kind of, sometimes they just do what they do. And you're like, okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy saying that.
No, I think you're spot on. And like one thing new DC Kelvin Shepherd is really like, put an emphasis on is like giving his linebackers the freedom to blitz more, choose when they blitz based on the look, because he wants these guys to see the game through his eyes. And a lot of them have. Like, he coached all these dudes before he became DC when he was linebackers coach. So they see the game the same way, and he puts a lot of ownership on them to get them into the right looks and out of bad ones on the field. And, like, a lot of that has to do with the blitz game. So he's really pushing that and hitting it home, and that's why you see Anzalone he's pretty effective as a blitzer. Jack Campbell, I thought, was a little rough when he was, a rookie. They were playing him at Sam linebacker and asking him to pass rush. That's not his game, but when he can pick and choose when he goes, he's a lot more effective. And then Derek Barnes, who missed most of the season last year, having him back as a pass rushing linebacker that can also drop into coverage and defend the run at a high level, he's sort of the Swiss Army knife, the chess piece in this defense that allows Kelvin Shepherd to do what he does.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jack Campbell, I not watching the film, I was like, he's not blowing me away as a blitzer, but it does feel like his I don't know. There's something with him that I liked, and he was like all over the place. He looked more athletic than I remember. I don't. But it feels like he's like come on this year. Am I wrong with that?
The athleticism part was probably just the black jerseys. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it might be the one pink cleats. I mean, I don't know.
No.
The thing is, on this podcast, I've already gone on tangents about if you wear the smaller number, you look faster.
Yeah.
So people are like, "This guy's nuts." Which, yeah.
No, but he has taken a leap. Like, I think he's a top 3 run defending linebacker in football. Like, the way he's able to diagnose, as you mentioned, but also just extend his arms and shed blockers that have probably 50 pounds, 60 pounds on him is pretty remarkable. And he does it at a high level, at a high rate each week. He's consistent. He's missed a lot fewer tackles than he has in years past. So he's really come on, man. And his coverage has gotten good. Like, there used to be times where they check down to a running back and Jack would go to make a tackle from the second level and he'd just whiff. And then the running back would pick up 15 yards. That doesn't really happen anymore. So he's really become a complete linebacker. A guy they probably have to factor into that core now. Not that they wouldn't, but when you talk about paying a linebacker $18-20 million, he better be pretty good. And Jack is really ascending to that level. He's like a top 5 PFF linebacker, and that kind of matches the eye test. But this group in general has been great.
No, I'm glad. Yeah, no, I the one thing I was going to say with Anzalone blitzing, the Vikings running back pass pro has to be good in this game. It's one of those sneaky things. And then the other, like Aleem McNeil lining up over Blake Brandel at center would be something that if I was Kevin O'Connell, I'd be a little nervous about. But last thing, and then I'll get you out of here. What do you expect injury-wise? Like Kirby Joseph, who else? I mean, you mentioned Decker, but I expect him to play even if he's hampered. Terrion Arnold, the cornerback. I don't know who else I'm forgetting. I think Muhammad was limited with a hamstring, but where are you with some of the injuries and what you expect or think or speculate?
Yeah, I think the bye week came at a good time because they're definitely hurting. We'll see if Kirby comes back, but they've been doing this thing where they don't sit him, where they sit him, the first 2 days of practice, and he's limited Friday, and he tries to play. He tries to power through. He's got a knee injury that's been bothering him since before the season, really training camp, and he was kind of limited then and wasn't practicing. And it's just going to be something he has to manage, I think, for the rest of the season. He's already exited 2 or 3 games and missed another. So I think it's just about being smart. And I would imagine with the extra time with the bye, maybe he'll gear up to go. I think a lot of it will depend on if he practices today. We'll find out some things. But, he's kind of up in the air. I think Decker is probably trending in the right direction after missing a couple of games. He's got the shoulder injury, and it's really this could be his last year, if I'm being honest. The way he's kind of talking about it behind the scenes doesn't sound great. It sounds like kind of the Frank Ragnow situation, which is why he retired so early. So we'll see with him. But Al-Qadim Muhammad had a hamstring injury. He was limited in the estimated practice report on Wednesday. Avonte Maddox, he's working his way back. So, and then Terrion Arnold, we'll see. I talked to him in the locker room on Tuesday. I got my days mixed up because they switched the schedule with the bye week.
I don't blame
you. But, Terrion Arnold on Tuesday told me in the locker room, and this is after 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, he was like, yeah, I'm going to be out there for Minnesota. I'm going to be out there. Bet on it. I was like, all right, cool. I've tweeted it. I asked him again on Tuesday. I was like, all right, is this a week? You're talking about Minnesota? And he goes, yeah, we just got to be smart with it, and we'll see how we're doing. And I was like, all right, man. Either you got media trained during the bye week or, maybe you're not going to play. We'll see. Or you're just being coy right now. So he's probably up in the air, but I don't know. I think he's going to end up playing. He seems to be in good spirits and moving around pretty well.
The one thing I will say, the Vikings O-line might be a little healthier. If Darisaw plays more, Brian O'Neill should probably be back at right tackle. They'll have Donovan Jackson. So 4/5 of the offensive line, which they barely had this year. And then Andrew Van Ginkel, it sounds like, is going to try, on Sunday. And if he's present, it gives the defense more flexibility. So, the path for the Vikings in this game for me, and you probably okay. It's if they get a lead early and somehow can force Jared to just be a drop back game, that is the path. Otherwise, if the Lions are running all over them, again, that song, I'm going to be laying in bed at the hotel hearing that in my head. That's just how it's going to go. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see the reaction for JJ and back in Michigan. Be kind of curious, but
yeah. What do you think? How do you think his return's going to go?
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Can they protect? I mean, it's really, can he be accurate and can he acclimate to game speed? He just wasn't getting the ball out quick enough in his first 2 games. I didn't think the first game was as bad as it felt in the moment. I thought the second game was pretty rough. He struggled against man coverage. I don't know if you know, the Lions like playing man coverage. So, and then honestly, the biggest thing for me is if they play man and he's scrambling and Brian Branch comes running towards him with the green mouth guard sticking out of his helmet, J.J. McCarthy needs to be very careful over the middle of the field. That's kind of how I feel. And success would be him staying healthy through this game. That would be a success. So
I still love JJ. Like, I loved him as a prospect coming out. I loved watching him at Michigan, just being in state here. So I'm still a big believer in his game, even if people are kind of souring on him. I don't know if that's the case over there, but I think
the fans are going to love you for that. No, the fans are still. Come on,
okay,
cool. You're generating. I mean, you're growing your base here on the Vikings.
Good. I'm wearing purple too. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, right. Doing everything.
I did this for you guys. Yeah. He's just so young, man. And Kevin O'Connell, like, he's a tremendous coach. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. And like, just gets dudes to play for him. And when their backs are against the wall, they usually take out of it. So I would not rule him out in a game like this, even though it looks pretty dire. So that's my pitch to Vikings fans out there.
No, I think that's pretty good. It is interesting. I mean, they're like 8.5-point underdogs or whatever. And I mean, the Vikings, when their backs have been against the wall, you're to your point, like they usually respond in some way. So if it's a close game, I don't think a lot of people here who are as negative as they are expect that, but we'll see. All right, Colton, thank you. We'll talk Mizzou when I see you in the press box.
Absolutely. Looking
forward to it. Get to the facility, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, man.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, that'll do it for episode 124 of the Alec Lewis Show. Appreciate you guys making it here, spending your time with me, whether you are in the gym, whether you are on a walk, whether you're driving in the car, or just hanging out. Appreciate you guys listening to the Alec Lewis Show. It's been a blast growing this thing. And even in seasons like this where it takes a toll, like it's fun to kick it around with people, about their team, study the league, watch film across. So hope you guys feel the energy that I have, as I go through these weeks and do my due diligence and study and everything. But if you're new here watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart or wherever, rate, review, follow. It's like 3 clicks, but it really helps us out. Check out Unreal's NFL Signature Collection. The link for that is in the description. I promise. I mean, the hoodie quality doesn't really make sense how they do it, but they do it. And then we're presented by First Resource Bank. That is a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. And I get a text from Tim every Sunday, and it's well wishes, and I have the immense gratitude for that message every single Sunday. If you listen to this before Friday, you can hear me for 3 hours, which is way too long, on the Friday Football Feast on KFAN. And then if you need more in-depth analysis on Christian Darrisaw or Carson Wentz situation, or what the struggles have looked like on film and behind the scenes, you can find all that at The Athletic, and appreciate you guys subscribing and reading over there. With that, that'll do it for episode 124. Do your best to enjoy Sunday, enjoy this weekend. Need a little bit of mojo in the Minnesota sports sphere, that's for sure, and maybe the Vikings be the team to bring that to you. That'll do it for episode 124. We will talk to you guys very, very soon.